So, this is the child who will save the world.
Ni No Kuni is a series of role-playing games developed by Level 5. The first game in the series, The Wrath of the White Witch, was exclusive to the PlayStation 3, and you played as a character named Oliver who ventured to another world in order to save his mother from an insufferable evil.
Why did you set out on this journey in the first place?
It's my mom. I have to save her.
Ni No Kuni II, The Revenant Kingdom, has come along with a new story in tow and with some new characters and gameplay styles. G'day everyone, Lucas here from Aussie Gamers Express, and today I am taking a look at Ni No Kuni II, Revenant Kingdom. First off, be aware that Ni No Kuni II is a massive, in-depth game with way more features that I could ever fit into a review. In this video, I will touch on gameplay, story, and my overall impressions of the game. I won't be delving into the intricate details of what makes this game tick. So let's get started. Essentially what we have here is a Japanese-styled RPG game that comes across into an industry that is familiar with games such as Pokemon, Final Fantasy, and Pikmin. What we see at first glance of Ni No Kuni II is a mashup of all of these game styles with a Studio Ghibli art style added. I don't want to pigeonhole this game as a copy of these games I've mentioned because Ni No Kuni II is very much its own game, but has some of the elements from those put into it. Being a JRPG, there is no doubting that this game is big, long, and in-depth. That is definitely the case here, but there's something special about the way all of this is delivered to the player. I am far from a fan of the JRPG genre and gameplay styles, but with Ni No Kuni II, it is delivered in a way that can cater for the casual RPG player without forgetting the intricate ins and outs for those hardcore players. The combat in Ni No Kuni II takes small doses from turn-based combat and mixes it into real-time combat, a little like Final Fantasy 15. This is still very similar to what we saw in the original Ni No Kuni. Combat starts off in the game quite simple with a hack and slash approach to taking down enemies, and slowly increases in difficulty and depth of combat. Eventually, we are introduced to special moves which involve cooldowns between uses. Further to this, there are potions, melee and ranged weapons. Team management is required as you start adding people to your group, as well as these little Pikmin-styled creatures called Higgledies, and they'll help you along the way using their own individual elemental abilities. Skirmishes have been added into the game as a new style of meta gameplay that you can play for either fun or to advance your armies along in RPG style. Skirmishes play out similarly to a real-time strategy game where you will control your main character who has his armies surrounding him. You will move your army around the map engaging enemies, trying to match up the style of infantry that you have with the enemy that you encounter. It's nice to see that Ni No Kuni II has added some new style of gameplay to add to the experience without leaving the main styles behind. Now I want to talk about the story behind Ni No Kuni II. I won't go into major events here, so don't click away just yet because I will avoid major spoilers. Ni No Kuni II's story is very much directed at the younger audience. Set hundreds of years after the events of the first game, we have a story where two factions, the Cat and the Mouse tribes, are warring over the kingdom of Ding Dong Dell. King Evan of Ding Dong Dell has been overrun by the Mouse tribes after a coup is initiated. Evan, a young boy, meets up with a man named Roland. He's a human from another dimension who has mysteriously been transported to this world by unknown means. Evan and Roland make their way out of Ding Dong Dell with barely their lives intact after a battle with the Black Knight of the Mouse faction. The rest of the story here revolves around King Evan attempting to rebuild his kingdom for his people to live happily ever after. Along the way, there will be several scary encounters along with friendships being moulded around a common goal. While the story won't really blow many of the older audiences away here, it's interesting enough to sit through and offers enough diversity in its own wholesome, kid-friendly way. I have enjoyed the story contrary to it being so very squeaky clean. However, for this reason, parents can happily allow their younger kids to play through this game without fear of foul language or scenes of gore and extreme violence. It's worth noting that you start off the game playing as Roland, but you have the option of switching to any characters that you meet that joins you for your journey. Each character you have at your disposal will have different qualities which will benefit different styles of combat. Further to this, along the way you will inherit some higgledies into your team, which will also assist you in combat. Their elemental abilities will also have different attributes that you will need to keep an eye on for efficient battle. These higgledies are little creatures that bear resemblance to Pikmin, if you're familiar with those from the popular Nintendo game of the same name. These creatures will offer you abilities to help you move forward into new areas of the game, and they will also lend their abilities in combat with special moves to help you win the fight. Ni No Kuni II has a lot to offer, but for those who are intimidated by the intricacies of JRPGs, please be aware that you can play this game as a simple adventure game without too much hassle. Playing on the normal difficulty setting, you can be assured that the learning curve is gradual and very sensible. For those that are used to this genre, you might want to bump up the difficulty a notch so you don't get bored by the ease of combat in the first 10 hours of the game. Ni No Kuni II is undoubtedly a beautiful game, but it's not all perfect. The biggest gripe that I had with the game was due to the game not including full voice-acted dialogue.
I'm Evan Petty Whisker Tildrum, King of Ding Dong Dell. Who are you?
The main cutscenes in the game will be fully voice acted, but the rest of the game simply adds in the odd word or grunt, with the rest of the dialogue being text based. Ni No Kuni II looks like a game of a sizable budget, which could have benefited from adding in more, if not all of the dialogue with voice-acted lines. With such a large game that can take well over 50 hours to complete when you take side missions into account, it's pretty good for me to only have such a small issue with it. The rest of the game is very much moreish in the gameplay and progression side of things. To sum it all up, I had a very good experience with Ni No Kuni II, the Revenant Kingdom, and I found it to be extremely accessible for those who are not used to JRPG games like myself. I'd say if you like the look of the game from videos that you see in this review, you'll likely get a lot of enjoyment and time from it yourself. Well, that's all I have for today. Thank you very much for checking out this review, and if you haven't already, now is a good time to click that subscribe button, and if you've enjoyed this video, go and give it a like. Thanks again, I am Lucas from Aussie Gamers Express, and until next time, I will see ya!
What?
You went wrong there.